What if I told you that the legends were real, that deep in the wilderness of North America, something lurks in the shadows, watching, mimicking, hunting? Stories of the Skinwalker go back centuries, whispered among the Navajo people. But what happens when modern encounters prove that these shape-shifting entities are not just folklore? Tonight we dive into chilling, first-hand accounts from those who claim they've seen the unimaginable. These are real stories, true testimonies, and they may change the way you see the dark forever. Before we hear the terrifying testimonies, let's understand what a skinwalker really is. According to Navajo legend, a skinwalker, also known as Naldlushi, is a malevolent witch capable of transforming into animals, possessing supernatural speed, strength, and an eerie ability to mimic human voices. Unlike mere folklore, this is a deeply ingrained fear among indigenous communities, where even speaking of skinwalkers is believed to invite their presence. But what happens when these creatures step out of myth and into reality? Let's find out. Our first encounter comes from a rancher in Utah, a man who had spent his entire life working the land. But one night, something came that no shotgun could scare away.
It was a quiet night, just me and my dog checking on the cattle. Suddenly he started growling low, real low, like he'd never done before. I turned my flashlight toward the tree line, and that's when I saw it. A coyote, only it wasn't moving like no normal animal. It was standing up. Its eyes were too big, and I swear on my life I heard it whisper my name. I nearly dropped my light. My dog took off barking, but it didn't run. It just grinned. And then it was gone. But the next morning, I found deep claw marks on my barn door. Something had been there, and it wanted me to know.
Next, we have the story of Jake, an experienced hiker who thought he knew every trail, like the back of his hand. But what he encountered on a weekend trip into the Arizona wilderness still haunts him to this day.
I was alone, which never really bothered me. I set up my tent, started a fire, and was just about to turn in when I heard footsteps. Clear, deliberate steps. "Hello?" I called out, thinking maybe another hiker was nearby. No answer. But then, the footsteps repeated, right behind me. I spun around, and there was no one there. Then came the voice. A woman's voice, calling my name from the trees. But here's the thing. I never told anyone where I was camping. My blood ran cold. The voice came again, but it was distorted, like someone was trying to speak but didn't know how. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the sound, and that's when I saw it. A figure, too tall, too thin, its limbs bent at the wrong angles, and it was smiling. I didn't think, I ran. I ran faster than I ever have in my life. When I got back to civilization, I swore I'd never camp alone again.
Among the Navajo, skinwalkers are more than just legends. They are a real and terrifying part of life. And for one family, the horror became personal.
When I was a girl, my grandfather warned us never to stray too far at night. They watch us, he said. They listen. One evening, my sister and I went outside after dark. We saw a coyote sitting in the yard, staring at us. We thought nothing of it until it stood up on two legs. Our grandfather rushed out, speaking in our language, throwing sacred ash into the air. The creature let out a terrible scream and ran. But later that night, we heard scratching at our door, whispering in the wind. My grandfather sat by the fire, chanting, protecting us. The next morning, we found footprints, half human, half animal, leading away from our home. To this day, I warn my grandchildren, never whistle at night. Never answer if you hear your name in the dark. And never, ever look too long into the eyes of an animal that does not seem right.
Not all encounters are accidental. Some people seek out the darkness, and sometimes the darkness follows them back.
I thought it was all a joke. My friend and I, we wanted to see a skinwalker, just for the thrill of it. We drove to a remote area near an old reservation and started calling out into the night. We even had a flashlight, scanning the trees. Then something stepped onto the road. It looked like a deer, only wrong. Its legs were too long, its eyes too intelligent. And then it spoke. It mocked us, repeating our own words back to us in a twisted, hollow voice. We peeled out of there so fast I barely remembered driving back. But the worst part? That night, outside my window, I heard scratching, and a voice, my own voice, whispering my name. I don't mess with the unknown anymore. I've learned my lesson.
So what do you think? Are these just wild tales born from fear and superstition? Or is there something lurking in the dark corners of the world, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? One thing is certain, those who have encountered these entities never forget. And now that you've heard these stories, neither will you. If you enjoyed tonight's video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable? And remember, if you hear your name in the night, don't answer.